Kalen, heart still hammering from the encounter and the strange insignia pulsing faintly on his floor, receives an urgent, encrypted summons from High Chancellor Valerius, Emergency Council. Your presence, mandatory. Subject, Tari diplomatic incident. He mutters, incident. That was an assassination attempt, or was it? High Chancellor Valerius's voice was like ice shards over the calm. Commander, your unscheduled Tari visitor has just been declared their new ambassador. An ambassador? My would-be killer? The thought was so absurd it almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I straightened my uniform, the faint scent of ozone and something uniquely Serafina still clinging to the air in my apartment, and headed for the Citadel Nova Council chamber. The transit car hummed, but it couldn't drown out the buzzing in my own head. The atmosphere inside the chamber was thick enough to coat your lungs. Every high-ranking official on Citadel Nova seemed to be present, their faces a mixture of apprehension and grim curiosity. And there, at the center of it all, standing beside Valerius with an unnerving poise, was Serafina Tar. Gone was the assassin stealth suit, replaced by the severe, elegant lines of Tari diplomatic attire. Her emerald eyes, when they met mine, held a dangerous glint, a spark of challenge. She looked every bit the composed diplomat, except for the almost imperceptible tightening of her jaw when our gazes locked. Valerius, his face a mask of strained neutrality, made the introductions. Commander Kalen Vance, may I present Ambassador Serafina Tar of the Kyrnath Dominion. She is here to discuss new security protocols. The words hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. I couldn't resist. Ambassador. I let a slow, incredulous smile spread across my face. Last I checked, your diplomatic methods were a bit more direct. Usually involving less talking and more sharp, pointy objects aimed at my vital organs. A ripple of murmurs, quickly suppressed, went through the assembled officials. An uproar. Good. Let them squirm. Valerius shot me a look that could curdle synth milk, but I held my ground. Serafina, however, didn't even blink. Her voice, when she spoke, was cool, smooth as polished jade. My previous reconnaissance was a traditional Tari method of evaluating a potential adversary's, or partner's, capabilities. A compatibility test, if you will. Her eyes flicked to mine, a subtle emphasis on partner. What was she playing at? This was more than just a diplomatic incident, it was a convoluted game of interstellar chess, and I felt like a pawn that had suddenly been promoted to a queen, without knowing the rules. I sensed a lie wrapped in a half-truth, a typical Tari maneuver. The mystery of her initial hesitation, that strange flash of shared something, deepened. This compatibility test felt like a smokescreen for a much more significant, hidden agenda. Valerius, clearly furious but constrained by the fragile peace treaty with the Kyrnath Dominion, could only grit his teeth. The tension was a living thing in the room. During the excruciatingly polite but clearly hostile exchange that followed, I noticed one of Serafina's Tari delegation, a stern-faced warrior with the unmistakable crimson piping of the Viridian Scions on his uniform, eyeing her with an expression that was far from supportive. It was open hostility, a subtle but clear power play within their own ranks. Interesting. Serafina went on to explain the Tari tradition of the Dance of Blades, an honor-bound ritual where worthiness and leadership were proven in combat. It is how we assess true strength, an unfiltered look into the soul of a potential ally, or a formidable foe. She looked pointedly at me, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. Some are found more worthy than others, Commander. Despite the very real threat she represented, despite the fact she tried to kill me hours ago, I felt a strange, undeniable pull towards her. This was insane. The meeting eventually, mercifully, concluded with nothing resolved except an agreement to further discussions. As the chamber emptied, I managed to corner Serafina in a secluded alcove overlooking the star-dusted void. "All right, Ambassador," I said, dropping the formal tone. "What game are you really playing?" Her diplomatic mask slipped, just for a moment, revealing a flicker of weariness, of danger. "A very dangerous one, Commander Vance. One where we both might die if you're not exceedingly careful." Her voice was a low murmur. "There are elements within the Dominion, powerful factions like the Viridian Scions, who believe your enhanced security measures on Citadel Nova threaten our sacred traditions." She practically spat the last two words, and I knew sacred traditions was a euphemism for something far more sinister, something tied to power and control. She stepped closer, the scent of her, something exotic, like crushed night blooms and charged ions, filling my senses again. "They don't just send assassins for mere security threats, Kaelin." The use of my first name was a subtle shock. "They sent me for a reason far more complex than you can imagine. And that Tari marker, the insignia I left in your apartment? It's not just a calling card." Her emerald eyes burned into mine. "It's a claim. A target. You're now part of their calculus, Commander. Whether you like it or not." Serafina turned to leave, her hand brushing a hidden data chip into my palm with a touch so light I almost missed it. "The Viridian Scions aren't just traditionalists, Kaelin," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. "They're hunting for something, or someone. And they think you might lead them to it." She was gone before I could react, melting into the corridor's shadows, leaving me with the weight of her words, the faint hum of the alien Tari marker in my mind, and a dangerous piece of Tari tech clutched in my hand. Kaelin stared at the data chip, its surface cool and alien against his skin. His quarters, once a sanctuary, now felt like the epicenter of an interstellar conspiracy. Hunting for what? He wondered, slotting the chip into his most secure, off-grid terminal. The data chip flared to life, not with battle plans, but with a single, impossible image, a swirling nebula that looked eerily like the Tari insignia from his floor. Beside it, ancient Tari script scrolled, characters sharp and elegant. My universal translator struggled, spitting out fragmented, cryptic phrases, "The twin souls' convergence, when the void dragon meets the star phoenix, a new dawn or eternal night." Void dragon? Star phoenix? Sounded like a bad space opera. But the gravity in Serafina's warning had been anything but theatrical. I spent hours cross-referencing the symbols with restricted Tari linguistic databases I acquired over the years. Slowly, a disturbing picture emerged. The chip contained fragmented Tari prophecies, ancient verses speaking of bonded pairs from different species, destined to create a cosmic balance or imbalance, depending on the interpretation. The Viridian Scions, it seemed, subscribed to the imbalanced theory, viewing any such union as a contamination, a threat to their precious Tari purity. Serafina was risking not just her career, but her life, by giving me this. Why? Our clandestine meetings began under the guise of interstellar cultural exchange, a term so bland it was almost insulting. For the official logs, anyway. In reality, each rendezvous in the dimly lit, forgotten corners of Citadel Nova, a deserted botanical garden here, an abandoned observation deck there, was a high-wire act, a dance of witty banter that barely concealed the simmering attraction between us. Shared secrets became our currency, exchanged under the ever-watchful, though hopefully unaware, eyes of the Viridian Scions. I could feel their presence, a cold shadow over the station. Serafina began teaching me Tari combat forms, the crawl, a fluid, deadly martial art. For your continued survival, Commander, she'd stated, her tone professional, yet her eyes held a different light. Our bodies moved in close proximity, the air crackling with an unspoken energy. The line between training and something far more intimate blurred with every session. You learn quickly, human, she'd say, her voice a husky whisper that sent shivers down my spine, her breath warm on my neck as she corrected a stance. Or perhaps I'm just a good teacher, she'd add, a faint smile playing on her lips. Maybe we're just compatible, I'd reply, holding her gaze, the word laden with a meaning far beyond combat readiness. It was during one of these sessions she mentioned her mentor, a figure who had taught her to understand human patterns, to anticipate our illogical behaviors. She spoke of this mentor with a strange reverence, a figure shrouded in mystery, possibly connected to some Tari resistance I hadn't even known existed. Another layer to this dangerous game. The Viridian Scions, unsurprisingly, weren't content to just watch. Their pressure escalated. Veiled threats arrived through back channels. Minor, deniable acts of sabotage plagued my department's systems, nothing I couldn't handle, but a clear message. Attempts were made to discredit me with falsified reports leaked to the Citadel Council. Child's play. Then, one rain-slicked evening on the station's outer promenade, things got serious. A Viridian Scion assassin, cloaked and silent, materialized from the perpetual twilight. This wasn't a test. This was for keeps. Before I could even draw my sidearm, Serafina was there, a blur of motion, her Tari energy blades clashing against the assassins. Their fight was a deadly ballet, a whirlwind of emerald and crimson light against the backdrop of distant nebulae. I joined the fray, my human tactics a stark contrast to their alien grace, but together we were something else. We defeated him, but not before Serafina took a vibroblade to the arm. Back in the sterile safety of my apartment, the air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and her alien blood. The proximity, as I carefully dressed her wound, was electric. Her skin, usually cool to the touch, radiated heat. "Why, Sarah?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended. "Why risk yourself for me?" She looked up, her usually guarded emerald eyes raw, her defenses finally crumbling. "Because. Kaylin." She paused, searching for words. "I think that flash we saw, that first morning, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a fluke. I think we're connected. Connected in a way my people have forgotten, or perhaps, chosen to destroy. A confession. And a dangerous one." She admitted the Viridian Scions were spearheaded by a charismatic fanatic, Warlord Malachar. He preached a gospel of Tari supremacy, believing any human K-Tari bond was an abomination, a genetic blight. And then, the real bombshell. She revealed she wasn't just sent to test my abilities as a potential threat or even an ally. Warlord Malachar suspected she, due to a quirk in her ancient lineage, might be particularly susceptible to this prophesied convergence. Her mission had been a trap, for both of us. As Serafina spoke of her lineage, her hand instinctively went to her abdomen. A look of profound shock, then dawning terror, washed over her usually composed features. "Kaylin," she whispered, her voice barely audible, strangled by an impossible fear. The convergence, it's not just some dusty Tari prophecy. It's happening. I can feel it. She couldn't finish the sentence, her wide, luminous eyes locked on mine, reflecting an impossible, universe-altering realization. Kaylin stared at her, the implications of her unfinished sentence crashing down on him with the force of a meteor. Atari, pregnant. With a human's child. The Viridian scions would unleash hell. Sarah, what are you saying? Seraphina's voice trembled, confirming my unspoken, impossible fear. I am with child, Kaylin. Your child. A hybrid. Her hand, still pressed to her abdomen, seemed to pulse with a faint, inner light. An impossibility the Viridian scions, Warlord Malachor himself, will burn galaxies to eradicate. The words, stark and terrifying, hung in the recycled air of my Citadel Nova apartment. Our brief moment of connection, of vulnerability, shattered. We were back in the heart of the storm. The galaxy, it turned out, had a very efficient grapevine for abominations. News of Seraphina's condition, this unprecedented hybrid pregnancy, must have slithered through Malachor's network of spies faster than a hyperlight transmission. Citadel Nova, once a beacon of interspecies cooperation, transformed overnight into a gilded cage. Every shadow seemed to watch us, every calm click felt like a prelude to an attack. The Viridian scions weren't just a threat anymore, they were the hunters, and we were the prey. High Chancellor Valerius, bless his politically pragmatic heart, was caught in the crossfire. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the ingrained caution of a seasoned diplomat warring with a dawning, grudging respect for what Seraphina and I represented. Or perhaps, what we were about to represent. He offered reluctant, covert aid, untraceable comm channels, falsified sensor readings, a blind eye turned at opportune moments. It wasn't much, but it was something. A lifeline. Then came the message from Nyx. Seraphina's sister, her mysterious Tari contact, the one who had taught her about humans, the one who was more than just a sibling. The coded transmission was short, brutal, and terrifyingly clear. Malachor invokes the blood oath. Elite hunters dispatched. No sanctuary within Dominion space. Evacuate. Seek Xylos. The ancient's cradle whispers your name. Xylos. A half-forgotten, verdant colony world on the fringes of explored space, rumored in Tari lore to be a place of ancient power. Cradle. Whispers my name. Cryptic, but it was our only lead. There was no time for debate, no room for error. Our escape from Citadel Nova had to be flawless. We pooled our skills, my intimate knowledge of the station's labyrinthine systems, its security loopholes I'd ironically helped design, and Seraphina's preternatural combat prowess, her senses honed to a razor's edge. It was a high-octane ballet of stealth and desperation. We slipped past Viridian scion patrols in the dead of night, their crimson-trimmed uniforms like warning flares in the dimly lit corridors. Navigated treacherous, forgotten maintenance shafts, the metallic tang of old machinery and fear coating our tongues. It came down to a nerve-shredding close call in Docking Bay 7, a firefight erupting as we sprinted for a prepped, stolen courier ship, the Stardust Drifter, a nimble, unassuming vessel I'd squirreled away for just such a rainy millennium. During the chaotic firefight in the docking bay, as plasma bolts seared the air around us, Seraphina cried out, clutching her side. Not from a hit, but from within. Strange, potent energy pulses, visible as faint emerald ripples in the air, emanated from her. One pulse, stronger than the others, washed over a pursuing Tari hunter drone, and its systems just died. Fried. The child. She gasped, leaning against me for support, her face a mixture of pain and awe. Kaylin, it has power. Real power. We barely made it. The Stardust Drifter punched through the Citadel's energy shield just as Tari interceptors swarmed the bay. Our jump to Xylos was a blur of adrenaline and whispered hopes. Xylos. It was even more beautiful and wild than the legends claimed. Lush, bioluminescent jungles carpeted the land, twin moons painted the night sky in hues of sapphire and pearl. For a few precious weeks, we found a fragile peace, a brief idyll in a hidden mountain refuge. But vigilance was our constant companion. Serafina's Tari physiology was reacting to the hybrid pregnancy in ways even she didn't understand. The child was growing, adapting, its energy signature a wild, unknown melody in the symphony of the cosmos. And the alien flora of Xylos, it seemed to respond to the child. The strange, glowing flowers near our refuge would pulse with a soft, empathetic light whenever Serafina passed, their colors intensifying. It was beautiful and deeply unsettling. The ancient's cradle, indeed. I did what I do best: plan, fortify, prepare for the inevitable. But Serafina grew weaker. The child's burgeoning energy, its unique demands, were draining her. Her emerald skin seemed a shade paler, her warrior's strength taxed to its limit. One night, as the twin moons cast long shadows, she gripped my hand, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and fierce love. "This is more than a child, Kaylin," she whispered, her other hand resting on her swollen belly, where a faint light seemed to pulse from within. "It's a key. Or a weapon. And stars help me, I don't know which." One evening, as an unusual aurora, far too localized, danced directly above our Xylos refuge, focusing an eerie light on Serafina, she cried out, a sharp intake of breath that tore through the quiet night. The child's energy spiked, a wild, untamed surge that caused the nearby bioluminescent plants to erupt in a blinding, patterned light, a silent symphony of alien color. I rushed to her side, my heart hammering. "The child it's trying to integrate too fast." She panted, her fingers digging into my arm. "There's an echo, a place." Nyx mentioned a shadow archive on Xylos's moon, where renegade Tari scientists study the forbidden. The forgotten lore. "We have to go there, Kaylin. Now." The Stardust Drifter blasted off from Xylos, a desperate silver streak against the alien sky. I gripped the controls, Serafina strapped in beside me, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her face pale even beneath its usual emerald hue. Xylos's forbidden moon, a scarred, pockmarked sphere shrouded in ancient myth and sophisticated cloaking technology, loomed ahead, our last, desperate hope. Her words from moments before, "We have to go there, Kaylin. Now," still echoed in the cramped cockpit. The moon base materialized from the void like a phantom, its crystalline structures shimmering, blending almost seamlessly with the lunar landscape. As we approached the designated secret coordinates Nyx had provided, a voice, calm and resonant, crackled over the comms. "Welcome, Convergence. Your arrival was anticipated by the archive's deepest algorithms." Convergence? Anticipated? This just kept getting stranger. We docked inside a hidden hangar, the Stardust Drifter dwarfed by the scale of the subterranean facility. The airlock hissed open, revealing not hostile Viridian scions, but a mixed group of Tari and, surprisingly, humans, all clad in utilitarian research uniforms. Leading them was an enigmatic Tari male, his features ancient and wise, his eyes holding a depth of knowledge that was almost unnerving. This had to be Overseer Theron. Beside him stood a sharp-featured human with an intense gaze, Dr. Eris Thorne, I presumed, the chief human scientist Nyx had mentioned. "Overseer Theron," I acknowledged, helping a weakened Serafina from the cockpit. Theron nodded, his expression a mixture of concern and profound interest as he looked at Serafina. "You are safe here, Serafina Tar, Kaylin Vance. The Shadow Archive is beyond Malakur's immediate reach." He gestured for us to follow. Come. Time is a luxury we no longer possess. As we moved through the sterile corridors of the Shadow Archive, a name that sent a slight chill down my spine, Theron began to explain. This facility, hidden for generations, was dedicated to the study of Tari-human convergence, the very phenomenon the Viridian Scions and warlord Malachor had so brutally suppressed, labeling it an abomination. He revealed that Seraphina and I were not the first bonded pair to exhibit such a profound connection, but ours was the first known instance of natural conception resulting in a viable hybrid. That explained the algorithms anticipating our arrival. They must have been tracking biosignatures, energy fluctuations, or something. Dr. Eris Thorne, his human voice cutting through the Tari's more melodic tones, elaborated as we entered a vast biolab. Your unborn child, Elara, he stated, his eyes gleaming with scientific fervor as he indicated a complex holographic display showing a swirling double helix, is more than just a hybrid. She is an evolutionary catalyst. Her unique DNA structure, the way your Tari and human genes are intertwining within her, is capable of unlocking dormant potentials in both our species. He turned to us, his expression softening slightly. Your emotional bond, Commander, Ambassador Tar, it's not just sentiment. It's a quantifiable bioenergetic frequency. That frequency, that profound connection, is what facilitated this miracle, what bypassed the supposed genetic incompatibilities. So, that flash Seraphina and I had experienced, it was real. Tangible. They led us into a central chamber, a repository of ancient Tari artifacts. Several of the crystalline structures began to glow faintly as Seraphina approached, resonating with the energy pulsing from her, from Elara. One intricately carved monolith depicted an ancient Tari prophecy, the coming of a star child of Xylos, a being of two worlds destined to bridge the cosmic divide, to heal a fractured galaxy. The symbols were eerily similar to those on the data chip Seraphina had given me. Xylos, the ancient's cradle. Elara, our star child. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture far grander and more terrifying than I could have imagined. It was then Theron revealed the full extent of their network. Seraphina's mysterious mentor, her sister, Nyx, was not just a sympathetic ear, she was a key operative of the Shadow Archive, working from deep within the Kyrnaf Dominion, subtly guiding events, pulling strings. The Archive hadn't just been waiting, they'd been actively, if covertly, involved. But these revelations were overshadowed by Seraphina's worsening condition. Elara's accelerating energy integration was overwhelming her Tari physiology. Healer Myra, a Tari medical expert with kind eyes but a stern demeanor, rushed Seraphina to a specialized medical bay, her team working frantically to stabilize both mother and child. I stayed by Seraphina's side, holding her hand, trying to pour my own strength, our bond, into her. The air in the medbay was thick with tension and the hum of advanced medical equipment. I always thought my strength was in my blades, Seraphina whispered, her voice weak, her grip surprisingly strong on my hand. But our true strength, Kaelin, it was always in this. She squeezed my hand, a faint smile gracing her lips. Suddenly, the relative calm of the Shadow Archive shattered. Klaxons blared, crimson emergency lights bathed the corridors in a hellish glow. Overseer Theron's voice, usually so composed, was grim over the station-wide calm. Warlord Malachor's fleet has arrived. He's tracked Elara's energy signature. He's here. As Kaelin Vance stood before the medical bay viewport, watching Warlord Malachor's destroyers loom like predatory beasts against the void, explosions began to rock the Shadow Archive. Seraphina was in labor, her cries, sharp and fierce, mingling with the roar of battle. He pressed his hand against the cold transparasteel, as if to shield them all. "This is it, Elara," Kalen murmured, his voice a low thrum against the rising chaos. "Time to show them what a little impossibility can do." The universe held its breath. Or maybe that was just me, my lungs constricting as the first plasma blast slammed into the archive's shields. Inside the besieged lunar sanctuary, a child of two warring species, a child deemed an abomination by fanatics, was fighting her way into existence. Outside, an armada, fueled by hatred and fear, prepared to unleash annihilation. Warlord Malakur's voice, amplified and distorted, boomed across all channels, a pronouncement of doom: surrender the abomination, or be erased. There is no sanctuary for those who defile the purity of the Tari. The battle for the Shadow Archive raged with a terrifying intensity. From the besieged command center, I helped Overseer Theron and a frantic Dr. Eris Thorne coordinate the Archive's limited defenses. Our shields flickered and groaned under the relentless barrage. Below, in the medical bay, Seraphina screamed, not in fear, but with the primal fury of a warrior in the throes of creation. Healer Myra and her team worked tirelessly, their faces grim. Then, something shifted. A wave of pure, unimaginable energy surged from the medical bay, from Seraphina, from our unborn child, Elara. It was a palpable force, warm and vibrant, pushing against the cold dread that had settled over the archive. This hybrid energy, amplified by the crucible of Seraphina's labor and, I desperately hoped, by the sheer force of my love and desperate prayers, began to coalesce. It formed a protective dome, shimmering and iridescent, first around the medical bay, then expanding outwards, washing over the entire archive like a silent, beautiful shockwave. By the first stars. Eris Thorne gasped from his console, his usual scientific detachment shattered. The energy field. Kalen, it's not just defensive. It's selectively neutralizing their weapons systems. Only those with direct hostile intent. Malakur's Viridian Scion forces are being disarmed. He was right. On the tactical displays, Tari fighters were spinning out of control, their energy cannons sputtering and dying. Viridian Scion boarding parties, who had breached the outer levels and were engaging archive security in brutal close-quarters combat, suddenly found their Nova bolters inert, their energy blades fading to harmless metal. They looked down at their useless weapons in stunned disbelief. "I'm here, Sarah. We're here." I yelled into the calm, pouring every ounce of my emotion, my love for her, for Elara, into our bond. Feel it. Fight with it. The energy dome pulsed in response, a vibrant heartbeat against the blackness of space, repelling Malakur's attacks with increasing ferocity. Theron, his ancient eyes wide with a dawning understanding, then revealed another astonishing fact. The other bonded pairs within the archive, a few Tari and humans who found each other despite the prohibitions, their latent connections are strengthening. They are contributing to the shield. It became a network of light, a web of interconnected souls standing against the darkness. How many had suffered in silence, their love deemed a perversion? Warlord Malakur, his face contorted with rage on the main view screen, was not to be denied his prey. Seeing his conventional forces neutralized, he ordered his flagship, the Iron Will, to fire its main cannon, a terrifying planet-cracking weapon, an instrument of absolute destruction, directly at the medical bay. A beam of pure, malevolent energy, a lance of cosmic fury, tore through space towards us. Towards Seraphina. Towards Elara. And at that exact, heart-stopping moment, as the beam screamed closer, Elara was born. A healthy baby girl, her skin a subtle, beautiful marble of my human fairness and Seraphina's Tari emerald, her tiny eyes blinking open to reveal irises that shifted, impossibly, from my own blue to Seraphina's vibrant green. She let out her first cry, not a wail of fear, but a sound of pure, untamed power. The energy dome around the shadow archive flared to an incredible, blinding intensity. It met Malaker's energy beam head-on. For a fraction of a second, two titans of energy clashed. Then, with a soundless concussion that reverberated through our very souls, Alara's shield redirected the planet Cracker's fury, sending it careening back towards the iron will. The flagship, caught in its own redirected death knell, erupted in a series of internal explosions, its shields collapsing, its mighty frame crippled and smoking. The remaining Viridian Scion fleet, witnessing the impossible, their fanatical leader's ship disabled, their own weapons useless, simply faltered. Their coordinated attack dissolved into confusion and a dawning, superstitious terror. Overseer Theron seized the moment, broadcasting a message of peace, of the truth of the convergence, of the new dawn Alara represented. The Shadow Archive siege, the trial by fire, ended not with a final, defiant bang, but with a stunned, disbelieving silence from our erstwhile attackers. In the quiet aftermath, I held Alara, our miracle child, our tiny, powerful star child. Seraphina, exhausted but radiant, her warrior spirit undimmed, reached out a trembling hand to touch our daughter's cheek. "She's our miracle, Kaylin," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, tears tracing paths through the grime on her face. "Our starlight." In the aftermath, with Malaker's forces in disarray and many Tari warriors questioning their lifelong indoctrination, Theron, ever the strategist, stepped onto the bridge of the crippled Viridian flagship. He came not with soldiers, but with a live, station-wide feed of me, Seraphina, and the peacefully sleeping Alara. "This," Theron announced, his voice resonating with quiet authority to the stunned Tari survivors, "is not an abomination. This is our future." A future warlord Malaker, in his fear and ignorance, tried to deny you. The Kyrnath Dominion stands at a precipice, a chance to embrace a destiny far greater than any conquest. 1 year later. The grand hall of the Kyrnath Dominion on their homeworld, Taria Prime, pulsed with a nervous energy quite unlike the rigid formality I'd come to expect. Today, however, was different. Today was a reckoning. Kaylin, Seraphina, and little Alara, now a vibrant toddler whose marbled emerald and pale skin shimmered with a gentle, internal light, stood before the newly formed Kyrnath Grand Council. The air, usually thick with the scent of ozone and Tari austerity, was today thick not with outright hostility, but with a fragile, almost fearful anticipation. The whispers of change had become a roar. The silence in the Kyrnath Grand Council chamber was absolute, a weighted blanket over the hundreds of assembled Tari elders, warriors, and newly appointed reformist leaders. Then, Alara, cradled in Seraphina's arms, giggled, a sound bright and pure as starlight, and reached out a tiny, perfectly formed hand. From her fingertips, a miniature aurora of pure, harmonious hybrid energy danced outwards, swirling through the vast chamber, touching the stunned Tari elders with a warmth that seemed to melt decades of ingrained prejudice. Jaws, quite literally, dropped. Even the most stoic Tari warrior blinked in disbelief. Warlord Malaker, the architect of so much hatred, was imprisoned, his once feared Viridian scions largely disbanded, its remnants undergoing a rather intensive re-education program meticulously overseen by Overseer Theron and, surprisingly, Seraphina's sister, Nyx. Nyx, it turned out, was far more than just a sympathetic sibling. She was a high-ranking operative within the Shadow Archives network, a master of counterintelligence who had been subtly undermining Malaker's regime from within for years. The revelation of the Shadow Archive's centuries of research into Tari human convergence, and the undeniable truth of Alara's existence and power, had sent seismic shockwaves through the foundations of Tari society. The old ways were crumbling. I spoke first, my voice echoing slightly in the cavernous hall. I chose my words carefully, not as a conqueror, nor even as a representative of the Human Federation, though High Chancellor Valerius was present, a silent, supportive observer, but as a partner and a father. Your strength, esteemed council, I began, my gaze sweeping across their varied, alien faces, was never solely in your formidable warrior traditions, nor in the purity you sought to protect through isolation. It was, and is, in your capacity for connection, but connection your old leaders, in their fear, tried to sever. Elara, our daughter, is not a threat to your heritage. She is a bridge between our peoples, a testament to a shared future. Then Seraphina, regal in her bearing, her warrior strength now tempered with a mother's profound grace, stepped forward. Her voice, clear and ringing with conviction, held them captive. I was trained to see humans as lesser, as a potential contamination, she declared, her emerald eyes sweeping the assembly. I was forged into a weapon of the Kyrnath Dominion, an assassin meant to enforce its rigid doctrines. But I found in one human, this human, she gestured to me, a soft smile gracing her lips, more honor, more courage, and more unconditional love than in all the tyrannical edicts of the Viridian Scions. Our daughter is not a dilution of Tari heritage, she is its evolution. Its next, most beautiful step. She then spoke of the ancient Xylan texts, recovered by a jubilant Dr. Eris Thorne from the deepest vaults of Xylos, texts that hinted at the Tari themselves originating from a dual spark, a blending of cosmic energies. These texts described Xylos not merely as a colony world, but as a nursery, a Genesis world designed to foster cosmic convergence, its unique alien flora acting as ancient biosentinels, resonating with and nurturing such unions. Elara, the star child of Xylos, was, in a way, a fulfillment of their most ancient, forgotten prophecies. As if on cue, Elara, sensing the powerful emotions swirling through the chamber, the fear, the hope, the dawning wonder, reached out again. This time, a wave of palpable peace, of undeniable unity, washed over the council members. Her hybrid energy, so potent in battle, was now a gentle, persuasive caress. It was an undeniable testament. There were no more doubts. The vote that followed was, in many ways, a formality. The evidence was irrefutable. The Kyrnath Grand Council voted, overwhelmingly, to formally recognize Tari human unions, to embrace the truth of the convergence, and to integrate the Shadow Archive's generations of suppressed findings into their official understanding of Tari identity and interstellar destiny. A new era of cooperation, not just with humanity, but with all species of the galaxy, was declared. High Chancellor Valerius, representing a newly formed human federation eager for peaceful alliances, stepped forward to formally seal a new treaty, his hand clasped firmly by a Tari elder whose face, moments before etched with suspicion, now held the first, tentative light of hope. Peace. It had a nice ring to it. Later that night, in the spacious, elegantly appointed quarters assigned to us on Taria Prime, overlooking the twin silver moons that graced the Tari night sky, Seraphina turned to me, her emerald eyes soft in the dim light. It's over, isn't it, Kaelin? The fighting, the running. I drew her close, the familiar scent of her, that unique blend of starlight and warrior, still making my heart skip a beat. The big battles, yes, I murmured against her hair. But the adventure of building this new future, of watching our star child navigate this changed galaxy, that, my love, is just beginning. Elara slept soundly in her Tari dream cot nearby, a tiny, perfect beacon of the new age we had all, somehow, forged together. Seraphina smiled then, a slow, intoxicating smile that still made my knees weak. And who knows, she whispered, a playful glint in her eyes, perhaps Alara would like a diplomatic envoy, a sibling to help her bridge the worlds even further. Kalen laughed, a deep, contented sound that echoed the peace they'd fought so hard to win. He looked at Serafina, his warrior, his ambassador, his love, and then at their daughter, Alara, the living symbol of their impossible journey. For purely diplomatic reasons, of course, he said, leaning in to kiss her. Years melted into a tapestry of starlight and laughter, the impossible child now a young woman, her very existence a song of two species harmonized by love. Alara. She grew with a grace that was uniquely her own, a captivating blend of my pragmatic human ingenuity and Serafina's tarry elegance. More than that, she possessed an extraordinary empathy, a profound wisdom that belied her youth. Her hybrid energy, once a wild, untamed force, had matured into a calming, unifying presence, capable of soothing frayed nerves and bridging cultural divides with an ease that left seasoned diplomats speechless. She was, in every sense, the star child the prophecies had foretold. She even had a younger brother now, Ryan, another diplomatic envoy, whose boisterous energy filled their lives with a different, but equally joyous, chaos. Nyx, Serafina's enigmatic sister and Tari mentor, became a cherished family friend, a frequent visitor to our home on Xylos. Her shadowy past as a master operative for the Shadow Archive was an open secret, her vital contributions to our survival and the subsequent galactic peace subtly acknowledged. She was now a leading figure in the new Tari-Human alliance, her sharp intellect and unwavering dedication helping to navigate the complex currents of interspecies politics. The third mystery, her true role, had unraveled into a comforting certainty: she was family. Serafina and I, well, we settled into a life that was anything but settled. Pivotal figures in the new alliance, our love story became the stuff of legend, a cornerstone of the new curriculum taught in schools on both Earth and Terria Prime. We oversaw joint cultural exchange programs, spearheaded collaborative scientific ventures, always pushing the boundaries of understanding between our species. The convergence, once a feared unknown, a word whispered in hushed, terrified tones, was now a celebrated aspect of galactic evolution, a testament to the universe's boundless capacity for creation. And the Viridian Scions? They were relegated to the history texts, a cautionary tale of fanaticism and the perils of fear-driven dogma. The other mysteries that had once plagued us found their resolutions too. The so-called Tari compatibility test, the dance of blades that had so nearly ended my life, was now understood for what it truly was: a deeply ancient biological imperative, a primal drive for genetic diversification and shared evolution. The old, isolationist Tari leadership had twisted this profound natural urge into a mere tool of conquest and control, a way to assess threats rather than embrace potential. The Shadow Archive's research, now public knowledge, had illuminated this truth, freeing the Tari from generations of self-imposed limitation. And Xylos, our beautiful, wild sanctuary. It was officially recognized by the Interspecies Council as a Genesis world, its unique, sentient flora now the subject of intense, respectful study. The ancient biosentinels, those glowing plants that had responded so profoundly to Alara, were found to play a crucial role in fostering interspecies harmony, their energy fields subtly influencing brainwave patterns, promoting empathy and understanding. Alara, with her unique connection to the planet, became the key to unlocking their deepest secrets, a bridge not just between human and Tari, but between organic life and the ancient, planetary consciousness of Xylos itself. Tonight, like so many nights before, Serafina and I stood on the wide veranda of our home, nestled amidst the glowing forests of Xylos. The twin moons cast silver pathways across the landscape. Alara, a young woman now, stood at the edge of the forest, her hand outstretched. The bioluminescent flora responded to her touch, patterns of light swirling around her, a silent, breathtaking symphony. Ryan, a lanky teenager, was attempting, with less grace but equal enthusiasm, to mimic her connection. A smaller, more chaotic light showed dancing around his own hands. Serafina leaned her head on my shoulder, her warmth a familiar comfort. "Who would have thought," she murmured, her voice soft as the Xylan breeze, "that an assassin sent to execute you, to preserve a dying ideology, would end up finding her entire universe in your arms, on a world like this?" I kissed the top of her head, breathing in her scent. "I always knew you were a terrible assassin, Sarah." A playful swat to my arm. "But you're an exceptional everything else." My deadly angel who looked at me and saw, well, this. Our bond, the improbable spark that had ignited in a luxury apartment on Citadel Nova all those years ago, still burned brightly, an enduring testament to a love that had defied empires, rewritten destinies, and forged a future from starlight. Our love hadn't just saved us, or even our two species. It had helped birth a more hopeful galaxy. And that, I thought, looking out at our children, at the impossible beauty of Xylos, was a legacy worth fighting and living for.